Well, we're not muted now.
No.
Actually, the door was open. So
Excellent.
Adam said he saw some red light, so
Yeah, I saw the RFID and I just figured it was locked, so I went
I have no idea what that is, but I'm putting down cautious and observant. So Adam,
Hi, I'm Maureen Butt. I'm the chair of the town council.
Nice to meet you. Adam
Sullivan,
Nice to meet
Chair
you.
of the
Jim.
Finance Committee.
Great.
How are you? Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
all right. Okay, I've been doing this for way too long. Because nobody runs against me. And I would love somebody to run against me just so I could have a fundraiser. Party of the year. Okay, I always ask this first question.
Yeah.
Not because you want to serve the town, not because you want to give back to your community, okay?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Why do you want to be on FinCom?
Well, to be honest, it fits a little bit where I am in my career. So I started off as an engineer. In 2010, I graduated from WPI, chemical engineering.
Ooh, WPI.
Yeah, and I went into consulting. After a couple of years, went back to school a few times. So I got a master's in engineering and then, went for an MBA more recently. So I've kind of trajectory has been into more management, project management. So where I am today is I run a $75 million P&L at Schneider Electric. So I'm managing, fairly large budget. I have different PMs that work for me around the globe. So, finance is kind of what I do. So it kind of fit with, basically, again, where I am, something to add to the resume. Again, I obviously live in the town, so I do
How long
have some
have
interest.
you lived here?
Relatively short period of time. We bought our house in the middle of COVID, March 2020, right down on Main Street. So not too long.
My neighbor.
Yeah.
And you didn't mention that you're a jumbo, which you should have led with.
Yes,
As a fellow jumbo. so-
Yes, I did attend Tufts for my master's.
Yeah,
no.
and Jim likes fellow engineers.
I do. I always am impressed with chemical engineers, not one of those.
Lawyers on this side, engineers on that
you go.
side.
I was almost a jumbo.
Yeah. I enjoyed my time there. It's a beautiful campus. So.
I went to Mount St. James. I was afraid of Medford back then.
Were you full-time?
Medford's changed now.
Full-time?
Oh, I know, it's hip.
No, I worked full time and then attended part time.
Yeah, so you're part-time.
Yeah, part time at school.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
Yeah.
So have you participated in town meetings since you moved here?
I haven't been on town meetings. I'm actually a new father, so we have a 10-month-old at home. So that's been, taking up a lot of my time the past year. And then, before that, was obviously COVID. I did get, the invites for the, to attend remotely, but I just haven't carved out time for it just yet. So, I've actually done work in the town in my previous life when I was at CDM. I helped out with the water and sewer department. So as a programmer or as an engineer, I was doing some PLC programming. So there's Steve Fitzpatrick. I don't know if he still remembers me, but I did some work for him as an engineer. And that's how
Water side or the sewer side?
on both actually, the little water plant as well as a lot of the little wastewater sites like Farm Street. We did some projects there. That's actually how I became familiar with the town. And then, lo and behold, a couple of years after that, we ended up buying the property here. So, yeah.
Is you gonna ask?
No, you go.
The position itself, so you're looking to get into, maybe giving back to the community and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Do you have any long-term thoughts or vision about trying to, be part of the community on the board side? Did you have any stepping stone, places you think you want to be?
I saw this as a really good entry point because it's not something that you have to get elected for, right? You kind of, you interview for it. So I thought this was a great first step. Having, a baby now, looking towards the future. I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously the town's doing a lot with the high school, which is really exciting. So, love to just, again, be part of that. Yeah.
And then the finance committee, do you know anything about the finance committee? Or do you know?
I mean, I know about what the town budget is, it's like 114 million a year. So, I'm familiar with, where it gets divided out. I've scanned through the documents. So yeah, I mean, I'm generally aware of how it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the function? What does FinCom do?
See, that, I don't know the details of like if, a budget's presented and then, is it stamped here? Like those details, I don't know.
Okay.
But again, I think I'm a very quick learner. I brought copies of my resume if we wanted to go into the weeds of, how I've kind of progressed and things like that, but.
Yeah, so the finance committee is the group that reviews the budgets,
Yeah.
sort of on a line item by line item basis. They're put together by the department heads and through the executive branch, through Steve and the town accountant.
Yeah.
And the finance committee looks at every budget and makes a recommendation for each budget, based on the receipts that we believe are coming in for the year against the expenditures we're looking to, spend for the year.
Yeah.
And so we meet twice a month, basically in the evenings, but then there's also subcommittees that work with the particular department head themselves, right down to the budget itself as it's being put together. Spent this last year, what are you doing with this, that sort of thing.
Perfect.
So
It's right up my alley
the
from.
subcommittee is where we get a lot of level of detail, and then at the board meetings, there's quite a bit of detail as well. The town council, for example, they approve the budget and they, help, they run the town, through the executive. We make recommendations and take a little more time than maybe the town council can take at a meeting for that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
So that's how I understand it.
Yeah.
So it's every other Thursday from January to April, is the regular meetings, and then there's subcommittee meetings that are, as scheduled. So sometimes 8 a.m., sometimes in the evening when people can do it, and then town meeting in the spring. Would you be able to participate in those meetings?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. My wife, I live with my wife, obviously, and no issues with any of that. Yeah. I figured the first half of the year was a little heavier, as you're setting up for the next fiscal year and everything. So makes sense.
Do you work in Andover?
Formally, I'm working almost entirely remote now.
Yeah.
My team is kind of scattered about the globe, so it was kind of a natural transition.
Where was Schneider in Andover? Was it at one of the industrial parks up there?
Yeah, right off the now I forget the exit number, but it's right off the exit number.
Yeah.
And then one of the industrial parks.
Okay.
So you've lived here for 3 years. What do you think are some of Wakefield's greatest services that we provide?
Services? I mean, I really like what's going on again with the high school. I come from West Bridgewater, Mass, and it was really exciting to be there when they were going through building the high school and everything. So I think that's really important to invest in the future. So I really like that. I'm familiar again with the water wastewater department. I know that's not kind of like exciting area, but it's being an engineer and having a little plant in town is kind of unique, and so I appreciate that. And it's got a fun downtown. A lot of good restaurants. So I like taking part in the community there.
And what do you see as the greatest needs in our town services?
Town services. I mean, I'd like to maybe do a little bit more recommendation for like how to. I don't know if it's the parks department that, kind of spruce up some of the streets with maybe more tree lining, just, basic things. I don't know how much sway would be there, but again, I think having a nice looking community is really important, to attract folks, and people want to live and work and, play in the same area. So, yeah.
Nice.
Do you know anyone involved? Do you know anyone on the FinCom?
No, not at this time. I looked at all 9 names. I looked at some LinkedIn's, but I didn't know anybody. Yeah. This was completely, I saw an email come in because again, I was trying to get more involved with the town. So I get the emails and I do scan them all the time. And I said, oh, FinCam's coming up. It seemed like a great opportunity. So I jumped on it, I was way back in like September, October at this point. So I was trying to follow up and everything because I was eager to have this conversation. But yeah, I didn't know any of the names. Long story short.
Okay. As far as finance goes, you said you managed the P&L for the Schneider, right? Do you deal with How do you deal with that? Is it spreadsheets? Is it on
Yeah, I mean,
sort of a platform?
yeah, it's all of that. So, there's a lot of Excel-based tools. We use a tool called Smart Sheets. We're also using a tool called JCT, which stands for Job Cost Tracker. But ultimately, everything rolls into proprietary tools, to manage these projects. So it's, at any given time, there's about 50 concurrent global projects that I'm running, or that roll up to me as the head project manager. So I work very closely with the finance controller. I obviously work closely with like directors and project managers and program managers. So it's very much a collaborative role. A lot of juggling, and a lot of off hours calls. So, I have a Singapore call I have to attend at 7 p.m. tonight. So a lot on my plate in terms of workload. So
Yep.
I'm pretty good at juggling things.
Right. And as far as some of the subcommittees or the activities around town, I don't know if it was sort of already asked, but do you have a vision for a particular area you'd choose to focus on if you had the choice for a subcommittee or learning more about that budget itself?
Probably nothing specific, to be honest, to answer at the minute. I do like some of the things that go on up at the lake. So I mean, if I don't know what would relate to that, but I'm open to a lot of different things, and I think having an engineering background with business focus, I can probably collaborate or provide a lot of value to a lot of different areas possibly. So.
Right. Right.
I like to ask a lot of questions too when I get involved to really, before any decisions or anything are made, I like to listen, really understand things. So try to keep it as open as I can. Yeah.
So along those lines, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. I mean, what are next steps look like? Is there a lot of interest in this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be honest, there's 4 candidates for 1 position.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you commit a felony, you generally stay on the FinCom.
Okay.
Okay, so.
That's pretty easy.
People drop up. They're like all long timers,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 3-year commitment.
Okay.
Is typically the appointment, and then if you choose to get back on, you get back on. If for some reason you can't stay and you come off, we try to fill, midterm, and we've done that as well. But it's a 3-year commitment, and a lot of people have been on for a while, and there are a number of new faces, and the balance is always the discussion on the balance is always interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Just for the record, I was kidding about the felony thing.
I was gonna say.
I figured as much, but I didn't want to say anything.
No, don't worry about it, really.
People move away. So we've had some people move away, or
Okay.
some people choose to continue, stop serving. But, FinCom is one of our 40+ boards. So encourage everyone to look to see if others appeal to you. We have so many, like a historical commission, a recreation commission, all of them. And so, if there is something else that piques your interest, but
Yeah.
FinCom's a good one.
Yeah.
And what made you choose to go for an MBA, if you don't mind me asking? So you had you got a master's in engineering?
Yeah, no, I saw it as a path to keep climbing the corporate ladder,
Current environment.
Yeah. I mean, I professionally, outside of, anything like this, I do want to continue to kind of grow down like the general management track. So, I have my eyes on future, VP roles, things like that at Schneider. So, yeah, I think it's a good complements my skill set. So.
Right. And kind of a long-term process.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I have other credentials as well, professional engineer. So I used to stamp my own drawings, and also the PMP, which is the project management certificate. So, education's always been really important to me.
Yeah, so you're licensed for control systems.
That's right. Yeah.
Interesting. I've dealt with a lot of professional engineers, and that's not one I deal with, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Good.
I'm all set.
You have any other questions?
Questions?
For us?
No, so I think the committee's already started meeting.
Okay.
I think there's a meeting next Thursday. They just met last Thursday. So the hope is to get everyone on board as soon as we can. So you'll be
Yeah.
hearing from
Yeah, so theoretically, if you're the right candidate, you'd be looking to jump on the meeting next Thursday. They're currently Zoom. We're trying to get back to face-to-face.
Yeah.
There is a desire to be taped, and we get a big crowd, so there's 15 on the board. So
Yeah.
this room, for example, doesn't work very well for that, so.
Yeah, no, you definitely lose a lot having everything remote, so.
Yeah.
Face to face has a lot of value, so.
Yep. Hoping to at least get to a hybrid environment where some people may choose to not be face-to-face and work through it.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, it's been working.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. No, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Much.
Yeah, thanks for having me come in.
No,
Enjoy your holiday.
Sorry for making you run down to the door.
oh, no, that's okay. That was I realized my emails.
needed
were-
the
yeah, I
steps,
didn't, I didn't know at the time,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, no worries.
See anybody on the way out, send them up.
Will do.
Take care.
All right,
Thank you.
have a good night, guys, thanks.
Take care.
You made it in, huh?
I did.
All right.
You, Michael?
Yes, I'm Michael.
Yeah.
Hi, Maureen Budd. I'm the chair of the town
Hi.
council.
Okay, Marine, I think we're neighbors actually. 894 Main?
We are neighbors.
Nice, I know.
I'm Jim.
You're a total neighbor.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
That's right. Cool.
That's
Yeah.
wild. I'm sorry, I would have noticed that in a little bit.
Totally fine.
Which end of town is that? I'm sorry for not knowing.
We're Greenwood.
Greenwood. Yeah,
We're-
Greenwood.
So how long have you lived here?
Quite a while.
So I lived next to the old Subaru dealership. If you've lived here like,
I know what
you
that
know, up
is.
to 20 years. If you lived here over 20 years, we live in the old McDonald's.
Oh, positively.
So people, depending on how long you lived here, know that. So
Yeah.
The old McDonald's.
the old McDonald's, which I used to know, but
I actually tell people the Subaru place and they still know where to take the left or the right, depending.
yeah, because he's right across the street from us up
Yeah, right.
Forest.
Okay, great, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. I know in your paragraph here, you want to give back to the community and stuff, but I always ask the first question.
Sure.
Not because you want to give back to your community or you want to serve, that blah, 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 plabum, whatever it is. Why do you want to be on FinCom?
I'm a money accounting guy, so I love numbers. That's first off. But secondly, honestly, I actually want to know more about Wakefield. So I moved here back in 2020. And I feel it would be great to be more involved in the community. And I've been trying to figure out a way that I can contribute with my skills, my background. And I thought this was a perfect reason to do so. So that's really straight it.
Have you attended town meeting?
I have attended one town meeting, the most recent one. I've been trying to learn a little more, as I mentioned. So just one meeting.
Sorry, you said you've been in 2020, so just 2.5 years.
Yes.
Great.
Yep. I guess I'm new. I know you guys have been in Wakefield just a little longer than I have, but I've fallen in love with it.
What made you choose Wakefield?
So I think Wakefield is really a people town. So it's somewhere where the residents are placed really, top of the hill, I guess, so to speak. So I looked at it as a place where if I want to have a family in the future, I could come here, raise kids, and I'm married with my wife, so spend time as a family here. And I think Wakefield is really a people first community, so nothing better than that.
What do you know about FinCom?
So I know FinCom is setting the town.
Besides what Evan Kenny told you.
Yes. Yeah, my buddy Evan.
Oh, you know Evan?
I do know
That's right.
Evan, and yep, I do. So I know FinCom sets or works hard to set the
I won't
budget.
hold that against you.
I was going to say, so. So I know that FinCom sets the budget for the town. I know that you guys are involved in meeting with the departments and sort of having that dialogue with the town council and all the stakeholders. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that that part of it is something I'm very interested in being involved in.
Great. this position, how do you view the position, trying to get involved in the town? Do you view this as something long-term you think you'd be involved with? But by the way, the position is usually a 3-year, and then with an option to re-up at the end of a 3-year term.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at this as a long-term opportunity to be involved in the town, meet new people. I mean, I've met you guys for the first time today, so that for me is an achievement
right
for today.
there,
It's a
right?
great start. So I think for me, it's a long-term commitment. And as I mentioned, I'm definitely interested in Wakefield being a people-first community. So for me, that's meeting with people. If I'm saying that, I want to actually meet the people. So getting more involved, that's really part of it.
Great.
So the way I'm just doing this part because I like doing this part,
Absolutely.
Jim, if that's okay. So the way that the FinCom operates is really from January to about April. They meet every other week on Thursday evenings for their meetings. Right now they're virtual. They will probably go to a hybrid at some point soon. And then there's about 9 subcommittees based on, the bigger budgets. And so members serve on subcommittees that can meet in the morning or after work, depending on availability. Does that commitment sound reasonable to you?
Absolutely. It was funny when I was originally messaging with Bill, I said, oh, is this meeting on Zoom or Teams? Because it's funny, you're just getting used to all the virtual meetings. And then he was like, oh, it's a town hall. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be in person. My company, I work in Boston. We're in person again. And it's exciting to kind of be back in
That
that
was gonna be
culture.
one of my questions.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
in person or not?
Yeah. So definitely excited about whatever mode of communication and the commitment needed.
And of those subcommittees, kind of the bigger subject areas, are there any that particularly appeal to you?
I'm not super familiar with the subcommittees, to be honest with you. So I would love to hear more about.
DPW, police, education,
Fire, IT.
fire.
I guess education would be something that I'm keenly interested in. I mean, I think like education is a big part of the future of Wakefield. And as someone who is interested in potentially having kids in the future, I think that would be a great place for me to be.
Very good. Your accounting background is Novalis, is that right?
Yep. So right now I'm at a venture capital firm, Novalis Life Sciences. My role there is primarily focused on budgeting, planning, analysis of what we've done, what we're going to do in the future, investment planning. So I'm not on the investment team. I'm more of the accounting, financial reporting, tax side. So I'm helping manage those processes. And beyond that, in my background, I worked at Deloitte. I did tax work there. I worked at State Street. I did some accounting work. And I do have some small municipal government experience
I was
early in
gonna
my
say,
career.
Tell me about Marlboro. What do you,
Sure.
what do you think, what did you learn there that you might be able to transfer to here?
Absolutely. So I actually grew up in Marlboro, spent my whole life there until I was around 18. And then when I went to college, but I spent a little time working at the economic development, Marlboro Economic Development Corporation.
Yeah.
And one of the big things I learned about was TIFs there. So that was something when I would talk about it with people, they would be like, oh, isn't that just tax breaks for companies? And then I learned it's actually trying to incentivize growth through property tax increment numbers. So I learned that. But I do know that Wakefield doesn't have like a big population of commercial and office space. There's a lot of maybe other types of development. So I know that. And then I would also say Marlboro is a pretty well-governed community. I think Wakefield is also another very well-governed community. So
You don't have to say that.
it's true, though. I mean, it's true.
Mayo's probably home listening.
Well, just so you know, Wakefield is a very well-governed community.
Oh, good.
No, but I think just kind of having that background from a city, I know we're bigger than Wakefield, so it's a little bit different. And also it's a city type of government with a mayor dominant, city council dominant kind of government. But I think just knowing that, I wouldn't say there's any very specifics. The TIF was just kind of the first thing I knew that was something that maybe not an average person would know off the top of their head about. So things like that. And just knowing,
That can be really effective.
yeah, and knowing how to kind of think about the process of what's good for the town, knowing like, okay, this may be a fit where I grew up in Marlboro, but it's not going to be a fit here in Wakefield or vice versa. So kind of getting to know the community. I was actually on a downtown revitalization subcommittee as part of my role there. I didn't play a big role, but I was on that committee. So I kind of got a chance to see that when you have these subcommittee meetings, that everyone comes in and they want something, and you can't promise the world. You listen to what people want, you see how it fits into the town's character, what the town needs, and then you make it work and try to make the most amount of people satisfied, but knowing the fact that you have to do what's best for the town at the end of the day. So I
Yeah.
think that was an experience actually that kind of came to mind. That was,
Yeah, I don't know it from here, but I used to be in a lot of political campaigns.
Yep.
And not even in this state, I'd been shipped out and stuff.
Yep.
And it was interesting. The first couple times I ran into it was outside of Chicago. And the guy, it was really interesting how the guy presented it. He said he didn't call, he wouldn't say tax. He'd say town revenues. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. And it was incredibly effective.
Yes.
And then people would be like, oh, you're going to use town revenues. You're going to give them a break on town revenues if they bring this in and this and jobs. And I was just sitting there like, whoa, this is great. Yeah, he came from 12 points back and won. It was great.
Do you know Samantha Perlman from Marlboro?
Yes, I do. I don't know her personally, but I know that she recently won a city council race there, and I believe she's the youngest city councilor to ever be elected.
Yeah, I think woman in Marlboro, right? Yeah, she's a good friend. That's
Yeah.
great.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
So as someone who chose to move to Wakefield, what do you think are some of our greatest strengths in town services? You talked about something education earlier.
Well, education is something I'm interested in, I suppose, but I would say honestly, the town, the lighting and gas electricity department, WMGLD, like, I mean, maybe I haven't lived here long enough to know everything, but at least in terms of the way we've been serviced, I felt like that has been a really big highlight of living here. There haven't been too many power outages, at least that I've noticed. Sometimes there's maybe overnight, but they always seem to get it up quickly.
Really quick. Isn't that amazing?
It is. So, I mean,
Just really quick.
yep.
It's always like, I love chaos. And sometimes like, oh, turn it back on so quick.
He's honest.
He is.
He is.
Yeah. Well, I had a tree outside my house and it had a guy wire. And so I was like, this tree is like, it's getting old. I'm like, I'm gonna take the tree down. And so Bobby Woods, who happened to be, runs a tree company. He also happened to work for the town. For the 4 years, he goes, no, you gotta call. So I called him, I said, no, we're topping it off. So I was leaning the other day and I was like, wait a minute. And I called, went down to my office, came back an hour later, there were 9 trucks there, cops all over and this kind of stuff for this truck stuff. It was great. Yeah, they are. Yeah, municipal gas and light's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. One other thing, I also think the fire department, I mean, seems to be very responsive. So, I mean, they're quick, they get their job done and then they're in and out. So I haven't had any experience with the police of Wakefield yet. Knock on wood. I don't think I will. But I mean, they seem like they're well run as well. So
I think that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they've come into I've seen instances, particularly with, dealing with people who are not in great shape. And they're really great. I've seen 3 separate instances, and it's just, I'm like, whoa.
Yep.
That's pretty progressive and effective. So, yeah.
So I actually have a question for you guys, kind of that I was thinking about while we were talking about it. So WMGLD. So what do you think? So it seems like you guys feel the same way. So what do you think about the way that they're governed, I guess, that makes their response time so well? Or like, what do you think contributes to that?
Yeah, so there's only 40 municipal owned gas and or light in the entire state, right? There's only 4 that have both. I think partly having people that live in town and work in town, they're our neighbors. In 9 years, I've never lost power. My parents in North Reading can't say the same thing. My sister in Stoneham can't say the same thing. So I think just, they're pretty well run there. They're members of the community. Their board's a pretty great board. So, yeah.
Yeah, their board is a good board, particularly lately. It's been, some pretty.
It's
Yeah.
transformed a lot. I think they've caught up, so.
And even way back, whoa. So it's really come around. So, yeah.
And I actually think that there's actually some really great opportunities for some creative partnership when they're municipal owned. So I'm thinking of the energy park that, that we all voted on at last town meeting.
Yes, that was the town meeting I was at.
Yeah,
So I saw there was a lot of lively debate.
Yeah,
about that.
but that's really going to be a partnership and we're going to have, the VOC is going to be a green built, like run on clean energy, which is amazing. So,
Yeah, I think the governance is important. I've seen some private municipal utilities have gone south, and the governance is important. But, I'm very familiar with public utilities, and they're just, the manpower or the people power, it's different in a bigger company. They take advantages of scale, opportunities of scale. So there's less than one might need. But here in the municipal, they take in an appropriate revenue and they reinvest it appropriately. So it's about the reinvestment and then the availability of resources, human resources to solve problems if needed. And sometimes smaller is better. And this municipal is a great example of that for sure. So, yeah.
Michael, can I ask you, are you in favor of the use of overrides?
Could you explain a little more?
I'm going to kick it to you.
Oh, so capital planning, right? You do capital budgeting and planning, and you buy a fire truck, you do this, you do that. But when it comes to a school, the tax revenue, the overall revenue, you can't support building a $200 million school. So a tax override is when the town votes to
Override
collectively
Proposition 2.5.
override Proposition 2.5 and collectively agrees to pay more taxes for this earmark, for this particular event of this particular school. The Galvin was an override because the tax base just can't support that. You can't pay off those kinds of bonds in the time frame that's necessary. So you do an override and you have the cash you need to build the building, and then you pay it back through our taxes over a long period of time. That's what an override is.
So for example, the proposal for the new high school,
Yes.
this would require an override in order to do so.
And an
So-
override is additional taxes for 25 years.
Okay. I mean, I guess I would need to think specifically about whether the project was something that benefited the community. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm in favor either or, because I would need to look at whether the project was something that benefited the community. But I mean, for example, that high school project, I'm looking at that and I know that that is something where the high school has not been rebuilt for many, many years. And I know that there are some potential risks there if it doesn't get built. So I would look closely at that project and say, is this worthy of it? And in my mind, yes. But I would not say yes for all overrides. I would say that would be an instance where it could be appropriate. But I would need to look at more detail to
This
see
is
for
a
sure.
poker face, not a blank face. Because I will be conducting the meeting in 2 weeks when this will be an issue. So I'm not going to venture any of my personal opinions right now.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's.
I wasn't asking about any specific case. I was just asking in general. That's why I had Jim explain
It's
it.
the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
High school.
Budgeting 101, right? What do we have for receipts? What are the priorities? Measure the priorities, rate and rank the priorities. That sort of thing takes course through the operational budgets, and then that's what we get pieces and parts of. But then when it comes to something as major as those types of things, it's just not. That's how it has to be.
Understood.
Because of the laws and for all the right reasons, that you can't just increase everybody's taxes by 11% without a lot of discussion or whatever the number might be.
And in this case, the community would have a say in whether that passes or not.
Absolutely.
Which I think is, having that democratic
multiple
involvement is
checkpoints
massive.
in a town environment like this. Absolutely.
Okay.
Each voter gets a vote on it.
Well, they come to town meeting and then if it passes and then we see what happens from there.
It generally goes to a vote across the entire community.
Jim's being a pessimist.
So I'm the realist out of the two.
I guess you need a little of everything in a small group or a big group.
Yeah. Meets twice a week, twice a month on Thursdays. Any problem with that commitment?
No, I would make it work.
With your employer,
No, I actually talked to my employer
Okay,
before
yeah.
I even applied, and I said, "Hey, is this okay if I were to join this committee?" I mean, I know I mentioned I have to interview to get on, but I said if I had the fortune to be on the committee, would it be okay? And they said, "Yeah, of course,
okay,
absolutely."
Great.
I'm all set.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
Your experience at State Street. So I know many people that describe living through State Street, getting in and getting out of State Street alive with the experiences. Were you younger at the time? Some people get that as their first job and they learn a lot and they just are run into the ground, maybe is how I could describe it. How was your term on State Street?
Well, I started there as an intern, actually,
Oh, okay.
and doing some fund accounting, and I spent a little time there in that group. I sort of elevated and developed into
Yeah.
a little bit of a leadership role as an associate on the team.
Right.
And then I have an interest in tax too, so I pivoted over to the tax group. So I kind of got a little of both of those experiences. I will say maybe the most memorable experience of my career was actually at Deloitte, but State Street was one of my big memories because I actually made a lot of friends there through the internship.
Sure.
And we stayed friends for a long time, and I still kind of connect with some of my
Nice. Yeah.
coworkers. So
Yeah.
I think that was really the highlight there. But my work experience was good and helped kind of get me to the next level, I think. So
Yeah,
yeah.
excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions for us or?
I mean, I guess in terms of a candidate for finance committee, like what do you think, what do you think somebody should, if they were to be on the committee, like what should they be ready to do from day one? And then,
Yeah, so right out of the gate, you want to be making the time to be engaged, to come prepared, because we run through a lot of budgets each evening, and there's a lot to cover. And it's usually in a spreadsheet environment, and it's really just being prepared and listening to the department head and understanding it if you weren't involved in the subcommittee, and just being able to ask appropriate questions for the level of detail for which you're receiving. We review all the budgets towards the end of the season is then when we vote on each budget individually. So we have to take some good notes and then kind of come back to it later on. So it's just being prepared and being able to be engaged and being willing to ask a question even though you're the new person, because we're all there asking questions. So
okay,
that would be the best way I think to describe it.
good. Good to know.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
so we'll let you know soon enough, I hope.
Yeah, it was great to meet you guys.
I mean, you too, appreciate you
I'll
coming
say
in.
hi when I see you now.
absolutely, yeah.
Mayor. I'm a little mortified I didn't,
Close the door. Yeah.
that's fine.
As is.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm trying to picture where the McDonald's was.
So it's the two town row houses of blue condos.
To the left of the Subaru? No.
The Subaru is not there anymore, so it's the Hallmark Health.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry.
Facing, if you're facing.
Oh, I know, the condo's going this
Yep,
way?
Yep, the barracks as.
Yeah, that
people
was
have-
McDonald's.
Yeah, I was on McDonald's, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Next to Subaru.
Got it.
So I live, so there's 10 on each side. So I live in all the way to the end on one side.
yeah.
And so we don't have a common area, right? So I don't really know my neighbors.
No,
And there's especially people that moved during pandemic.
Yeah, you just come.
Because you just, like, you weren't
and go.
outside. We didn't do a holiday party.
Yeah.
Ellie Zuccaro, nice to meet you.
Hi, Maureen Budd. I'm the chair of the town council.
Oh, nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you too.
I'm the chair of finance committee.
Here, good?
That's,
Wherever you'd like.
All right.
is it raining outside?
It is pouring
no.
out. I luckily
raining
had
a lot,
this sitting
yeah.
in the back of my car.
Why isn't it snowing?
Oh, you're one of those, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
My husband's one of those. He's like chomping at the bit to get his snowmobiles out. For the last couple of years, he hasn't been able to because we go near Lake Winnipesaukee and there hasn't been a ton of snow. So now he wants to,
There's snow now.
there,
Guys,
I know.
I had guys sending me pictures from Waterville this morning. I'm supposed to go tomorrow, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna work and then go Thursday, Friday.
yeah, it's,
Skiing, not snowmobile.
yeah, he's big into the snowmobile side of it and he's cannot wait to go. So,
Okay, I just want to look at one thing here. Okay. You were on the Town of Saugus Audit Committee. We'll get to that. I always ask this first question. I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
Not because you want to give back to the community, not because you want to do the, yeah, you know, all that.
Yeah.
Pablum. I said it correct that time. Why do you want to be on FinCom?
So I think honestly, my background and what I've done in municipal finance and then just nonprofit finance, I think is a good combination to really advise the town and help to advise the town on where we could potentially go, help to oversee, you know, what the budget looks like. To be honest, we moved here 5 years ago. I moved from Saugus, obviously, and we plan on staying for a while. And I'd love to see this town be a place where we want to stay and where our kids can thrive. And I feel like the best way I can help do that is to participate with my skill set, and it just falls in line with the finance committee. So,
Stonehill, huh?
yeah.
My son went, I don't know when he got it. You know that screenwriting, you know, yeah. What's with that? So he's like, you know, his grandfather, my wife and I, his older brother, they all went to Holy Cross. He only go there. And then he did pretty well in Wakefield. He got a little something for a hoop and didn't want to go there. He said, there's one place I'm going. We went down there and that's where he wanted to go.
Really?
Yeah, for that program. There's all these, yeah. He ended up doing an internship at Lincoln Center.
Oh, wow.
Because of that. Yeah, right, yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. it's
Basketball
amazing.
team is not too shabby. So obviously he was
What?
doing pretty well. I said their basketball team's not too shabby.
Well,
So,
this year, that one kid, they had a big article the other day in the Globe about the kid. Yeah, his wife, my daughter-in-law went there too. She was on the soccer team.
oh, wow.
She was on the cover of the athletic booklet all 4 years.
Oh, wow. How old is your son?
I don't know. I don't even, I was trying to figure out.
I graduated in 04.
2004, he's in his mid-30s, he's 30 something.
Okay. So I'm 40. So I was,
I'm not on FinCom, I'm not good with numbers.
that's okay.
I'll work.
Ages. I think if I asked my husband my son's ages, he'd be like,
Yeah, if 2 and 2 makes 4, you don't need me in the morning. I do civil litigation. Okay, now we're gonna talk about that 4. Yeah, okay.
So Ellie, have you been to a town meeting in Wakefield since you moved here?
I have not. I have not.
Well, you're gonna have to start to go if you're on this.
I understand. Yeah. I think
So,
it'd be good.
I don't know, I'm going to do a little spiel about what
Yes.
FinCom commitment is. I'm taking this over from Jim.
I'm very happy with it.
So FinCom is a 15-member board.
Okay.
The term is actually 3 years.
Okay.
We have one opening right now. And it meets every other week, twice a month from January to April.
Okay.
With the hope of presenting the budget at town meeting in the spring, which is usually in May.
Okay.
FinCom, in addition, and those meetings are Thursday evenings.
Okay.
Would you be able to commit to those?
Yes.
Great.
Absolutely.
I guess in the old days, like consultants used to probably not be able to do this job, right? Because they'd fly out on Thursday, like
Right.
come back on Thursday evening. So, and then a lot of how they do their work is through subcommittees.
Okay.
So the subcommittees are kind of, the bigger budget. So police, fire, schools. There's like 9 of them.
Okay.
Any kind of subject matter like appeal to you in particular?
I think it's just kind of the overall picture that probably appeals to me just because that's my background. I haven't necessarily gotten into any specifics. My brother-in-law is on the on the Wakefield Police Department, so I mean, obviously that's intriguing. I don't know if you guys need to know that or if it matters, but yeah, so that's always intriguing to me. But yeah, I think just kind of the overall financial picture is kind of what intrigued me about the opening.
And so Lawrence General, just give me a little bit of background of what you do.
Sure.
I don't know if I can read it, I've read it.
Yeah, so
You were for Powers and Sullivan,
I did.
right when you get out of school?
Yeah.
Did you work there during school or something?
No, I actually had a friend who worked there and got me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just saw that. They're great guys, huh?
love them.
Yeah, I know.
love them.
They do forensic accounting for me for trials. Yeah.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, so they work with you for that.
Oh,
Do you work
yeah.
with Craig? Do you work with Craig?
No, with
Jim.
Jim.
Yeah.
Jim's got all the Red Sox pictures. You can see
Jim is
right when you
like the
walk.
guru of municipal accounting, I think. It's
unbelievable.
State.
But not municipally.
Forensic, yeah.
In Fred, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's very smart. Yeah.
The other thing is it works really well if your client is
really not thinking clearly about their case.
It's great. He said it, I didn't.
Yeah, he's a great guy. That's
Yeah, he's a
actually,
really good guy.
that's how I got interested, obviously, in municipal finance, was I started with Powers and Sullivan. I worked there for a few years, and parlayed that into working at Cambridge Health Alliance because they're a component unit of the city of Cambridge. So the Gatsby background actually lent itself to working at Cambridge Health Alliance, and that actually started kind of my love affair for healthcare, which,
So they were a component of the city, is it?
yeah, yeah. Right, so they had a 6:30 year end where most hospitals have 9:30, so, yeah, they were a roll up under the city for the consolidated financials.
Yep.
So, so that's kind of how it got started, was I was with Powers and Sullivan, went to CHA, and then that kind of led me down the healthcare path. So I've done a lot of, nonprofit, healthcare for the last 15 years. So now I'm at LGH. They aren't part of the city, but very closely associated, obviously, with the city of Lawrence.
Right.
Right now, I'm the controller, so I oversee all of the fiscal operations, accounting, payroll, AP, budgeting, and any of the reporting that needs to be done. We were without a CFO for about 6 months in the last year, so I wore that hat for a little bit, working directly with our CEO, who is fantastic. She's a fantastic leader. She used to be the CFO, so it was a great mentoring opportunity for me. Obviously, right now, healthcare is just really, it's tough. It's a tough business to be in. I think all businesses are tough to be in at the moment, but, it's just a lot of tough decisions had to be made, obviously, with the focus being the community that needs quality healthcare and access to it. With that at the forefront, it's been, a lot of tough decisions around what we need to do going forward. So, yeah, so that's kind of LGH in a nutshell.
So my first job out of college was at Management Sciences for Health.
Oh, it was?
But in DC, in their
you got
DC
to-
office.
oh, fun.
So I worked there for a year and a half. I do policy.
Okay.
But, yeah, and they were funny. They were, back then, it was a long time ago, they were in Cambridge before they moved to Medford.
Oh, so you might, do you know Chris Welch?
No.
Oh, he's been there forever. So he was, he works in the Medford office. But yeah, I loved it there.
This is like 2 decades ago, it's a long time ago, but,
He's been there for probably.
oh, really?
Yeah, since the founder was there, he's been there. He's kind of a mainstay there, but
That's funny.
yeah, I loved it there.
Yeah.
I learned so much in international treasury. I was in charge of international finances. Obviously, most of the work was done in Africa. When I was there, they ended up losing the main grant that we had for DRC, and that ended up with laying off 54% of the staff. Luckily, I was not one of those, but the writing was on the wall. The funding was kind of going to go a different stream, so they kind of went into delivery systems for pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really interesting transition that they made, and the hires that they made for the new CEO. She's doing wonderful things there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of why I ended up leaving there, was the funding had just kind of dried up for this when I was there, but I would have stayed forever if that didn't happen. I loved it there. The work we did was so intriguing.
Yeah. I don't think we do much international financing.
No, I don't know if that's gonna parlay here.
Much of that.
That's probably a good thing. It's not real stable.
We cross the borders. We do some contracting with
Yeah.
L roads and
Communities in a 3 mile radius.
yeah, Stoneham. We just added Stoneham to the list, but
But we are about to consider the question of some financing. What are your thoughts on the new high school?
So my kids are 3 and 4. So I'm of the mindset that something like that will benefit a town in terms of what the long-term outlook looks like. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, I leave that out of whenever I work. But yeah, so my kids are, like I said, 3 and 4. I think it's great. I have 2 nephews that live in this town. My sister's here. Like I said, my brother-in-law's in the police department. So they're 9 and 11. So I think it's a great opportunity for the town.
Nice. The position, so the finance committee, it's a 3-year term, and then if you choose to stay on, if you're the right candidate, you choose to stay on, you re-up after 3 years. How do you view yourself sort of down the road? Do you view this like a position you're interested in staying in for a long term, may seek other public activities? Do you have any thoughts on that? Say out a bit.
So I think for now, this looks like the position I'd like. I would love to stay on long-term. In terms of other aspirations, for positions, I don't have any at the moment. That's not kind of where my thought process was. I thought, I saw this opening, actually one of my friends sent it to me and said, hey, this might be something you're interested in. And it was, and that's when I kind of thought about going for it. I didn't really think further past that. I have my full-time job that I love. I'd love to stay at LGH for as long as possible, as long as they'll keep me, and as long as the state will keep funding us. So
Is it remote or do you go in?
It's
to work?
hybrid.
Just curious.
yeah, it's hybrid. So I go in a couple times a week. It's super flexible. We have
Great,
the administrative offices have a hybrid schedule, obviously. So
great.
So when you moved here 5 years ago from Saugus, what do you think are some of our greatest strengths in town services in Wakefield?
So I'm biased a little bit, but the police department, I obviously think that they're right up there. My brother-in-law is actually the school resource officer over at the vocational school. So, I was biased in that. My sister lived here since 2004. So I feel like I was always part of the town because her neighborhood was so close-knit. So I was here every day anyways. So I think some of the services that, I've seen since I've moved here, honestly, things like as simple as our street always has salt on it when it's, like yesterday, my husband and I commented that we're like, oh, look, this is already taken care of.
Quick question, how long are you guys gonna be in here for?
Probably till 8 o'clock.
Alrighty,
But nobody else is coming. So if you want to lock it,
alrighty.
you know what I mean? So
Yep.
you can do that and take off. We're fine. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. Jeez.
So go ahead, the salting of the,
Yeah, so I think that, things like that, I think that everything's usually taken care of. I think there's opportunities just on, the roads around town that, that's one of the things that we've noticed is probably lacking, but just little things like that, I think, don't take away from anything that the town offers. We bring our kids down, we brought our kids here for, there was like a town day that we have. Perfect for our kids. The number of parks here in this town with having little kids, it gives me something to do with them literally every weekend. And I don't have to think about it. We can just pick a park and they'll be like, oh, how about the one with the baseball field? And they know which one we're going to. So I think, those are the kinds of things that drew us into the town, obviously, just the community itself. But, those kinds of offerings were what really drew us here.
And where do you see the biggest opportunities for town services in our town?
I think the school's one of them. I think there's definitely some opportunity there. And this is obviously from feedback that I've heard from people who are involved in the town, or who have kids in the school at the moment. My kids are a little too young to be involved at this point, but, that's pretty much one of my reasons that I want to make sure that this town has that opportunity for the kids. I don't want to ever have to feel like parents have to send their kids elsewhere, you know what I mean? Like outside of the town. So I think that's one of the things that the school system, a new school, some infrastructure, I think that's kind of where I would see those opportunities here. Like I said, maybe the roads, I'm not sure if that's a town thing.
It's a big town thing that we spend a lot of money on.
I'm sure that that's probably at the top of a few people's list, but there's opportunity everywhere, right? So.
great. So you end up with getting an MBA with a concentration in public administration, or
Yep.
how would you describe that?
Yep, it was a focus in public administration. Yeah, so it was.
And that was sort of driven from maybe Powers and Sullivan
Yep,
and other activities
exactly.
through your career?
Yep, so when I went to go, I was still at Powers and Sullivan, and that was, obviously I was interested in the public administration aspect. I had my accounting degree, so I figured that was a good path to kind of explore.
Great. The Saugus Audit Committee.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Before Billy asks.
yeah. So this was an interesting one. It's a little juicy.
Is it permanent?
Was it permanent?
Is it a permanent committee or did they?
It was not.
Oh,
Yeah,
even
because you
better.
guys had you guys not you guys.
The town.
Saugus, the town of Saugus has
Drama.
had some, yes, dramas.
There was a lot of drama around this committee as well. So it was created out of a charter that somebody found in the town meeting. So it wasn't like your stereotypical audit committee that looks at the financials, reviews the financials. It was to essentially what we found out once we were on the committee, there was three of us. And I was on there just given my background. They were like, oh, you'd be great for this. And I was thinking it was a normal audit committee. It was not. It was the town, the selectmen who had just pushed out the town manager, wanting to give oversight to everything that was happening with the town manager that they were then trying to bring back. And then there ended up being a recall election and the audit committee charter changed. So what we did was we just kind of ended up reviewing warrants. We ended up advising the town meeting on what should happen, what should be in warrants, and staying out of the rest of it. And then we decided to end the committee. We all three of us had decided that this isn't what we had thought it was going to be. And it's best to stay away as the recall election happened and they brought back in the town manager and they moved some of the selectmen out. So we had to stay as a neutral party to stay out of it. But yeah, it was bred from the drama that happened in Saugus. So we tried to make it a audit committee as best we could. Obviously still operated under the same kind of public meeting requirements, put all of our agendas out, did all of the right things, but it was really not what an audit committee
Sure.
in the stereotypical way where it looked.
Those words didn't really support the actions.
Correct. Yeah, it took us, about 6 or 8 months to kind of get to a point where we're like, they want us to drive certain change that we're not really necessarily
Sure.
allowed to do. As we read, all three of us sat and read, the charter. We weren't authorized to do the things that they wanted us to do. So we all just decided best for our careers and reputations to kind of take a step back at that point. So yeah, I put it on my resume, but it's a story. It's an audit committee that's not really what everyone thinks an audit committee is. So
More than numbers.
it was definitely more than numbers once I got in there. Yeah. It was interesting. It was actually a good lesson for me to kind of see what was happening and make sure that we did the right thing and kind of stepped back from it. But yeah, there was a lot of drama. They
Wow.
recovered a little bit from it, so that's nice.
They
Yeah,
have a brand new high school over there, so they
do.
did recover.
Yeah, they do have a nice high school.
Ellie, do you have any questions for us?
Just more kind of like what you guys are looking for in terms of attributes. I know that's kind of a cliche question, if you will, but just more kind of what you're looking for attributes. Are you looking for a long-term person, or are you kind of looking for a short-term person to turn over the committee?
You have to blow the dust off some of the people that are on there. They've been on so long.
Okay.
So there's one opening on the committee currently,
Sure.
and it's a 3-year term, which we are generally looking for somebody that wants to join the committee and be part of it for the long term. Some of the subcommittee folks have been on subcommittees for a number of years in a row, and then you sort of transition off to learn sort of another nuts and bolts. It's as operational driven, probably more than it's, say, accounting driven, right? We don't build budgets, we don't build spreadsheets. We review the spreadsheets. The executive branch puts things together that we review and give critique on and give input to and sort of debate during the meetings. So it's the background of having knowledge of understanding accounting, obviously understanding budgeting and understanding, sort of cash flows. It's that sort of rudimentary sort of basis. And then, the willingness to learn and partake, to be able to dig in and be willing to ask an uncomfortable question, maybe, because, people are in reviewing their budgets with us, both at the subcommittee level or the regular level, at the meeting level. And, they're passionate about what they have, and then they feel pretty confident with it. And it's our job to understand it and sort of agree with them.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
Territorial is what he's trying to say.
I've been on both sides of those conversations, and it's never easy, but it's usually gets you to a good place.
You always make me look polished. I like that.
I know. Well, you are polished.
Which is-
Yeah. It's like passionate about what they're doing. It's territorial. It's clawing for that extra penny.
That's it.
Yeah.
So again, it is twice a month we meet, and, we just ask folks to, I try to get the information out as timely as possible, take time to read it and be ready in advance, those sorts of things, and just come as an active participant and contribute where your strengths lie. And, I'm not an investment banker. So when the investment folks in the room talk about investments, I'm intrigued, and I get most of it. And I always learn something new myself.
Right.
It's just, I've only been on it 10 years. I don't have that much dust, but it's.
Do you mind me asking what your background is?
Sure, I'm an engineer.
Okay.
I was an engineer, and I went and got an MBA myself. And I've been in operations and large public utility operations, and I run a civil engineering company now.
Oh, wow.
So large business to small business, but mostly on the business side.
Okay.
Hiring, firing, budgets, and
All the fun things.
kind of fight through to make the demands, all come out in the wash at the end of the day.
That's right. Okay.
That's my background.
Awesome.
The committee's got a lot of diverse backgrounds, and I think that's important. Like, I think when you ask
Yeah.
what we're looking for, it's also, fresh eyes are also really great. It's actually, our town budget is probably smaller than Lawrence Memorial. Like, I'm a trustee at Melrose Wakefield, and our town,
Okay.
that budget is bigger than, our town budget.
Sure.
But I think the committee right now, it's got attorneys, it's got healthcare professionals, it's got engineers, which I think is also really valuable. It's got people all different ages, all different parts of town, all different backgrounds, which I think just makes a stronger budget at the end of it, of having people with all that different background, so.
Yep.
But I think, like all of our committees, people that just ask questions and want to participate and kind of learn more about our town from a different angle,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Thanks. Yeah. Awesome.
Great.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay. Any other questions from you?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for coming in.
Nice
to meet you.
Thanks for applying.
Oh, sorry, where is Orsino Street?
Orsini Drive, that is,
I don't know.
it's off of, if you go towards the end of Montrose on the high school side, it's the last turn up the hill, you take a left, it's up there. So,
Heading down Montrose Ave towards the school, take a right at the very end.
yeah,
Is that Holland Street? Is it?
that's the other end.
Got it.
So where it's Rosemary, and then, so like if you know where Rosemary or Ledgewood is, those ones.
So you're Woodville, you'd be
Yes.
zoned for Woodville?
Yes, that's what I'm told.
Yeah, it could
Now
change.
we're
but-
just starting to, where next year we're starting to Doyle. So my kids will end up. at Doyle.
Early school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
we're getting to that age. But yeah, so that's our area. We have.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You should be able to get out on your own.
If I can't, then I should not be here.
No, right.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah,
to
thank you
meet
very much.
Nice to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Stay dry out there.
Yeah.
I got here at 5, that's why I didn't know it was.
Yeah, it was
I didn't mean-
sprinkling when I came in.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pouring when I came in, so
I
hopefully.
didn't expect that. I thought it was Thursday night it was gonna rain. but-
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye, nice to
Take care.
meet you.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion. We move to executive session.
Second.
In order to freely discuss, candidates, okay?
Seconded, all in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.